This is Natural Disasters and City Budgets, a Homeowner Review by me, Charles Ryder-Davis. A natural disaster is defined as a sudden and terrible event in nature, such as a hurricane, tornado, or flood, that usually results in serious damage and many deaths. In Florida, there are many types of natural disasters that can impact almost every part of the state, including federal, state, and city budgets. A natural disaster is a time of instability to the population and the government. If the government, like the homeowner, is somewhat prepared, they can lessen the tensions along with protecting property while maintaining some order. Populations of cities may not enjoy considering that budget will include for catastrophe is very important. A homeowner will accept some risk, but most will buy insurance or risk transfer. Risk transfer occurs when our organization, like an insurance company, assumes the risk and pays for the loss when it occurs for a premium. A seamless side of insurance is the best way to handle possible losses, or if they should take another avenue for protection. What a city decides to do may depend on many factors, but money will usually be the reason for the choice, and is similar to the homeowner in most cases. Um, I know with Florida, a lot of insurance companies do not cover flooding standard. You have to pay extra for that. Same thing with if you own an apartment, renters insurance, things like that, which cover the actual items in the apartment as opposed to just anything in the apartment itself. Um, Money is usually the biggest factor, but I think also another factor is uh, where you sit in the evacuation order. If you know that you're really high up on the evacuation order, you're in a really low level area. I think that's a very big factor if you decide to get flood insurance or some other major insurance, that part of the insurance that will increase your premium quite a bit. Whereas if you live in an area that is above sea level quite a bit, you probably won't need it. You might get some minor rain flooding, but you won't get anything like the lower levels would. Along with damages that is covered in insurance, whether self or commercial, comes the long-term damage to structures of vehicles that may not be seen. There are many times damages from natural disasters not immediately apparent but showing itself years later. Much like a homeowner, damage to vehicles would impact the trade-in value, maintenance needs, and possibly fuel economy of a vehicle. Expected life expectancy of a vehicle could be shortened, and with a decreased trade-in value, a budget that includes the vehicle will become useless and need to be reworked for a decreased value. In regards to buildings, the damage will need repair, again costing the city. The largest damage can be years, showing up in infrastructures such as electric and gas. Even with an inspection, problems may still arise that are beyond insurance or unplanned maintenance. I know with Florida, even with hurricanes that aren't as big as Irma, a real big problem is roofs. A lot of people use shingle roofs, which are bad compared to metal or even tile roofs, but um, they are a lot easier to get damaged. And like after Irma, it was a big shortage of contractors. So I know when this last hurricane, Dorian, I believe was, almost hit, a lot of people still didn't have their roofs fixed. And the same can be said for a lot of different basic home repairs, things like that, things that general handymen, independent contractors can't really handle. Some of the bigger companies have to handle. You could find that because of how much damage is done to the area, you might not be able to get the repairs done time for another disaster strike, which could just cause a cascade of damage that could just multiply how much it's going to cost and how much impact it could have in the road to come even without disasters. There's another unforeseen long-term impact to city budget, the potential for loss of revenue. Storm damaged properties decrease in value and in turn decrease home tax revenue. There's also possibilities of companies relocating and again decreasing tax revenues. If there is sales tax, it may decrease as residents curb spending after a disaster. When studies showed evidence that people who were wealthy were more often the ones to leave a disaster-prone city, leave behind the poorest of the population. What happens when the wealthy leave? Less revenue, leading to less money for city budgets. I know for the case of Irma, this is not the standard. A lot of people, as many as could fit in the roads, tried to evacuate, which led to actually a lot of people incurring more damage to their vehicles because they had to leave them on the side of the road because the gas station simply were running out of gas. But as far as revenue, I think that the biggest factor would be where not places get power, with a reliance on credit cards, debit cards, things like that. I think you'll see places without power really won't be able to get any more real revenue. I mean, there's people who have cash in them; they'll be able to afford things that they need for after hurricane. But without power, a lot of places really won't be able to operate too well, and they won't be able to accept payment from a lot of people, which could really hurt them and could really hurt the city because sales tax and everything like that. But as far as property tax, I don't think that's as much as a big deal. Um, because how often it's done, about once a year, the taxes get updated for that. So that's, for most people at least, shouldn't be an issue as far as how much they're paying to the city and state and all that. But it can make an impact, especially in people who are renting and their landlords don't get on top of the damages to fix them, like with roofs or other major things like water systems. Those can have a very big impact on the how much the building sells for. Many costs from a natural disaster are immediate and come in the form of emergency services. The immediate need to shelter, protect, and rescue citizens. The need to restore services, water, power, retain order, and even restoring sanitation is urgent. Budgets includes funds for these services, however, for any funds that will come through FEMA, there may be a wait. The City of Cape Coral recognized this in their recent budget approval. Additionally, the city may not realize any reimbursement from FEMA regarding Hurricane Irma costs until late in fiscal year 2019 as a best case scenario. This proposed budget does not recognize anticipated revenues from FEMA as those funds are not guaranteed and may take years to be reimbursed. I know Katrina, FEMA really kind of dropped the ball with getting supplies and money to where it needed to be anywhere near in time. And it certainly seems they're a little bit better, but overall, I think the biggest thing that really needs to be improved as far as costs and budgeting when it comes to natural disasters is ways to expedite the release of funds from these federal programs such as FEMA to the city and state officials so that they can help get these things back to power. While the power company does maintain and fix their own lines, a lot of places still need help to get everything up and running. And while most counties already have pretty big shelters in place before the hurricane even hits for people to go to, um, those can still incur damage. They might have to be open for a lot longer than anticipated due to damages, flooding. There's a million different variables that can affect what the city needs to spend money on, not just for rescuing people who were stranded and weren't trying to go out and they couldn't, get back because of flooding, things like that. But just making sure that they have everything they need just to let the people who are hunkered down in place safely stay that way. The City of Cape Coral, Florida fiscal years 2019 to 2021 adopted budget is an excellent example of how natural disaster, in this case Hurricane Irma, will impact the city budget. When a citizen reads the budget, it's very clear, and the impacts of Hurricane are not just physical but financial also, much like a homeowner. Fortunately, the city of Cape Coral has had an upturn in the housing values and should be able to increase revenue from property tax, unlike the house owner who may have no additional revenue. Natural disasters have impacts on federal, state, city, and homeowners' budgets. They can require more money than is allowed in any of the budget types for many years. Florida is one of the states that is prone to hurricanes or natural disasters. Politician leaders must keep in mind as they evaluate funding and budgets. I definitely think, especially on the city level and county level, definitely need to be more prepared for extended power outages, anything like that that can affect food storage, water storage, even because water does, and the containers themselves only last so long before they start to kind of fall apart. Um, and it's difficult because it's good that the city will get more revenue from taxes. Can help them budget better as far as preparing for the hurricanes. But it's also harder on the people who, since they have to pay more, they still have to pay the same taxes or more taxes. They'll have less money for repairs, for just things in general, where they might have to push off non-critical delays like slight damage to the roof and stuff like that. And that can lead to cascading damage where it could end up critical damage, and it could affect the how much the house is.